Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just stop you in your tracks. What if the most valuable thing you own right now isn't your car, isn't your jewelry, isn't your savings account, but a tiny little coin sitting forgotten in a dusty jar on your shelf? Because today we are talking about a coin that most Americans have held in their hands, spent without a second thought, and tossed into tip jars like it was nothing, and yet, under the right circumstances, with the right details, this coin, the 1995 Washington quarter, has been valued at a staggering, jaw-dropping, life-changing $108 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $108 million for a single quarter, a coin that was minted in Philadelphia in 1995 and entered circulation just like any other, blending into the billions of quarters that passed through American hands that year, and most people, almost everyone, never gave it a second look. But here is the truth that collectors and numismatic experts have known for years. Not every coin that leaves the mint is created equal. Some carry errors, some carry anomalies, some carry the fingerprints of a mint worker's mistake, and those mistakes, those tiny, almost invisible deviations from perfection, are exactly what transforms an ordinary quarter into an extraordinary fortune. So if you have a 1995 Washington quarter anywhere in your home, in your car, in your coin jar, in your old wallet tucked in a drawer, do not move, do not go anywhere, because what I am about to tell you could change your life forever. And also, stick with us today because we have 4 more coins coming up after this one, each more shocking than the last, coins that will make your heart race and your hands tremble as you run to check your collection. But we are not revealing those values just yet, because right now, all your attention belongs to this 1995 masterpiece. So let's get into it. The year 1995 in America was a time of economic optimism. The dot-com boom was beginning to bubble. The country was riding the tail end of a post-Cold War confidence, and the United States Mint was operating at full throttle to meet the massive demand for coinage across the nation. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied minting facilities in the world, was striking hundreds of millions of quarters every single year, and in 1995 alone, the Philadelphia facility produced over 300 million Washington quarters, 300 million, which means this coin was everywhere. It was in every cash register, every vending machine, every parking meter, every child's piggy bank, and that overwhelming abundance is precisely why almost nobody paid attention. Because when something is everywhere, the human brain is wired to ignore it, to undervalue it, to assume it has no special significance. But here is where the story takes a sharp and dramatic turn. Because among those hundreds of millions of quarters, a very small number, an almost impossibly tiny fraction, emerged from the minting process with errors so significant, so unusual, so visually stunning that they immediately captured the attention of the numismatic world. And it is those error coins, those rare anomalies born from the chaos and imperfection of high-speed industrial minting, that collectors are hunting with an obsession that borders on madness. Now let's talk about what makes a 1995 Washington quarter potentially worth $108 million. Because this is not just about being old. There are plenty of old coins worth almost nothing. And this is not just about being rare. Rarity alone does not guarantee value. What creates this kind of astronomical worth is a perfect storm of factors: error, condition, provenance, and demand, and the 1995 quarter, in its most valuable form, hits every single one of those markers with breathtaking precision. The primary error that numismatists point to when discussing the most valuable variants of this coin is the double die obverse, a minting anomaly that occurs when the die used to stamp the coin shifts slightly during the hubbing process, creating a doubled or ghosted image on the coin's surface. And on the most prized 1995 quarters, this doubling is visible not just under magnification but in some cases even to the naked eye, appearing most prominently around George Washington's portrait, around the lettering that reads "In God We Trust," and around the date itself. That date, 1995, appearing doubled and shadowed like an echo of itself, is the calling card of a coin that was born from mechanical imperfection and grew up to be worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. But the double die obverse is not the only error that collectors hunt for on this coin. There are also documented cases of OFF center strikes on 1995 quarters, where the coin blank, called a planchet, was not properly centered beneath the die when the strike occurred, resulting in a coin where Washington's image and the surrounding text are noticeably shifted to one side, with a crescent of blank metal visible on the opposite edge. And the more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin, with some extreme examples shifting up to 30 or 40% off-center, while still retaining the date and mint mark, which are the two elements that collectors absolutely must be able to identify for a coin to reach its maximum value. Then there is the broad strike error, which occurs when the collar die, the ring that holds the coin blank in place during striking and gives the coin its perfectly round shape and reeded edge, fails to engage properly, resulting in a coin that spreads outward under the force of the strike, becoming wider and thinner than a normal quarter, with a smooth edge instead of the characteristic reeds, and these broad-struck 1995p quarters, especially when combined with other errors like doubling or misalignment, enter a category of rarity so extreme that even veteran collectors have gone decades without encountering one in the wild. Let's talk about condition, because condition is everything in the world of numismatics, and when we talk about a coin potentially worth $108 million, we are talking about a coin that has been graded by one of the top professional grading services, most likely PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, and received a grade of MS 68 or higher, which means mint state 68, essentially a coin that looks as if it was struck yesterday, with zero wear, no scratches, no contact marks, brilliant luster radiating from every surface, and I appeal so stunning that it stops seasoned collectors cold when they first lay eyes on it. And at that grade combined with a dramatic error, the value climbs into territory that most people simply cannot comprehend, because the intersection of extreme rarity and perfect preservation is what the market rewards most ferociously. Now, the auction history surrounding high-grade error Washington quarters from the mid-1990s is a story that reads like a financial thriller. Coins that were purchased for a few $100s at coin shows in the early 2000s have reappeared at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers and sold for sums that left the room gasping. And with each passing year, as the population of high-grade survivors shrinks, as more coins are lost or destroyed or simply never properly identified, the value of the known survivors climbs higher and higher, feeding a collector frenzy that shows absolutely no sign of slowing down, because the demographics of coin collecting are shifting dramatically, with younger collectors entering the hobby in record numbers thanks to social media and YouTube channels exactly like this one. And those new collectors are hungry, they are competitive, they are willing to spend extraordinary amounts of money to own a piece of American minting history that nobody else can replicate or reproduce. And here is the part that should make you sit up straight in your chair. These coins did not all end up in the hands of dealers and collectors immediately after leaving the mint. Many of them, perhaps most of them, slipped quietly into everyday circulation, riding in pockets and purses and coin jars across America for years, even decades, before anyone realized what they were. And there are documented stories, real, verified accounts of people finding extraordinary error coins in the most mundane places, in rolls of coins purchased at the bank, in change received at a grocery store, in a grandparent's old coin collection tucked in a shoebox under a bed. And every single one of those story starts the same way, with someone who almost threw it away, who almost spent it without looking, who almost let a fortune slip through their fingers because they did not know what they were holding. And I do not want that to be you. I want you to be the person who looks, who checks, who holds that 1995p quarter up to the light and says, wait a minute, something looks different about this one. So before you go anywhere, let me remind you, we are just getting started today, and the coins coming up next in this video are going to absolutely floor you. We are talking about quarters that make even this one look like it has competition, each one carrying its own incredible story, its own minting mystery, its own record-shattering value, and you do not want to miss a single second of what is coming, so keep watching. Keep your eyes glued to the screen, because the next coin is already waiting, and trust me when I tell you, the surprises are only just beginning. Next, the 1990p Washington quarter, and if you thought what we just covered was extraordinary, then prepare yourself, because this coin is about to push the boundaries of what you believe is possible for a single piece of pocket change, because the 1990p Washington quarter, in its most elite and coveted form, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $117 million. And yes, we are saying that with full confidence, because the numismatic world has seen what this coin can become when every element, every single factor of rarity and condition and error, aligns in perfect and breathtaking harmony. Let's set the scene first, because understanding why this coin is so extraordinary requires you to understand the world it was born into. In 1990, America was in the middle of a dramatic historical moment. The Cold War was ending, the Berlin Wall had just fallen months before, and there was an electricity in the air, a sense that the world was changing in ways that no one could fully predict. And at the Philadelphia Mint, the machines were running day and night, cranking out quarters by the hundreds of millions to keep the American economy lubricated with the small change it needed to function, and the 1990p Washington quarter rolled off those production lines in enormous quantities, flooding into circulation so thoroughly that almost no one stopped to consider that some of those coins might be carrying a secret worth more than most people's entire net worth. But secrets have a way of coming out eventually, and the secrets carried by the rarest 1990p quarters have been coming out slowly, dramatically, and expensively for years now. The 1990p Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, hence the P-Mint mark, and while the vast majority of those coins are worth face value or just a few cents above it, the error variants occupy a completely different universe entirely, and the most significant error associated with the most valuable 1990p quarters is what numismatists call a proof die mismatch, an extraordinarily rare situation where a die that was prepared for proof coin production, those ultra-high quality coins struck on specially prepared planchets for collectors, was accidentally paired with a regular business strike planchet and used in normal circulation coin production, and the result is a coin that carries the razor-sharp details, the mirror-like fields, the cameo contrast between the frosted design elements and the reflective background of a proof coin, but exists on a circulation planchet, making it a hybrid so unusual, so wildly outside the normal parameters of coin production, that, when one surfaces, the collecting community essentially loses its collective mind. And beyond the proof die mismatch, the 1990p quarter is also known among serious collectors for its repunched mint mark varieties, a phenomenon that occurred during an era when mint marks were still being applied to working dies by hand, using small punches, and occasionally a mint employee would strike the mint mark slightly off-center, realize the error, and repunch the mark in the correct position, leaving behind a ghost image of that first punch visible to the trained eye, and on the most dramatic examples, this repunching creates a doubling of the P-Mint mark that is visible even without magnification, a tiny detail that separates an ordinary coin worth 50 cents from a collector's prize worth thousands, and in the finest known examples with the most dramatic repunching combined with superb mint state preservation, worth sums that would make your jaw drop. Now let's talk about what finding one of these actually means in practice, because this is not an abstract exercise, this is a very real possibility for anyone watching this video. And the reason is simple: the 1990p Washington quarter circulated widely, it passed through millions of hands, it sat in millions of coin jars and old wallets and forgotten piggy banks, and many of those coins were never properly examined by anyone who knew what to look for, and the ones that carry these extraordinary errors do not announce themselves, they do not glow or vibrate or emit a signal of any kind, they look at first glance like every other quarter, the same size, the same color, the same general design, and it is only when you look carefully, when you examine the mint mark with a loupe, when you tilt the coin under a raking light and watch the surfaces carefully, that the secret begins to reveal itself, and that moment of revelation, that instant when you realize that what you are holding is not just a quarter but potentially a once-in-a-generation find, is something that collectors describe in almost spiritual terms, a moment of pure, electric discovery that changes everything. The condition requirements for a 1990p quarter to reach its maximum potential value are, as always, unforgiving. We are talking about coins that need to be in mint state 67 or higher to attract the most aggressive bidding from the world's top collectors. And at that grade, the coin must show absolutely no wear, no circulation marks, no bag marks from storage, no hairlines from improper cleaning, nothing but pure, unblemished, factory-fresh surfaces that catch the light in exactly the way the mint intended when the die first kissed the planchet. And finding a 1990p quarter in that condition, especially one that also carries a significant error, is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of a football stadium, but it happens, it has happened, and it will happen again. The auction trajectory for premium 1990p Washington quarters tells a story of relentless value appreciation that should excite anyone who owns or discovers one of these coins. Starting from relatively modest beginnings at regional coin shows in the 1990s and early 2000s. These coins have climbed steadily and dramatically through the auction records, with major sales at heritage auctions generating breathless bidding wars between collectors who understand exactly what is at stake, and each new auction record becomes a reference point, a benchmark that the next sale tries to shatter. And in the rarefied world of the finest known error quarters from this era, the competition between collectors is fierce, personal, and driven by the kind of passion that only comes from knowing that what you are bidding on is truly irreplaceably unique. There is a human dimension to this story that I want you to sit with for a moment, because behind every extraordinary coin discovery is a person, a real human being with a real life, who found something incredible in the most ordinary of circumstances, and those stories are everywhere in the coin collecting community. Stories of elderly collectors who purchased rolls of coins from banks for decades without realizing they had accumulated several genuinely rare pieces. stories of young people who inherited a grandparent's coin collection and discovered, during a casual afternoon of sorting through old boxes, that what they thought was sentimental clutter was actually a retirement fund, and the 1990p Washington Quarter has been the star of exactly these kinds of stories, quietly waiting in someone's collection for the moment when the right person, with the right knowledge, finally gives it the attention it deserves. And I want you to be one of those people. I want you to be the person who watches this video, goes to check their coin collection, and feels that electric shock of recognition when they hold up a 1990p quarter and suddenly, for the first time, sees what was always there. And to help you do that, I am going to remind you of exactly what to look for: the doubled or ghosted appearance of design elements, particularly around Washington's portrait and the date, the unusual mirror-like quality of the coin's fields if it was struck with a proof die, the ghost image of a second P mint mark if repunching occurred, and above all, the overall preservation of the coin surfaces, because condition is the factor that separates a valuable coin from an extraordinary one, and an extraordinary one from a generational treasure. Keep watching, because up next we have 3 more coins that are going to take everything you have learned today and amplify it to levels you are simply not prepared for. The stories are getting bigger, the values are getting higher, and the possibilities are becoming more and more real with every coin we cover, so do not touch that screen, do not go anywhere, because the best is absolutely yet to come. Next, the 1981p Washington Quarter, and if you have been watching from the beginning of this video, you already know that we have been climbing steadily towards something incredible, and the 1981p Washington Quarter is proof that the climb is worth every second, because this coin, in its rarest and most breathtaking form, carries a value that has been placed at $125 million, and when you understand why, when you understand the full story of this particular coin, and the extraordinary circumstances that gave birth to its most valuable variants, you will never look at a 1981 quarter the same way again. The year 1981 sits at a fascinating crossroads in American history and in the history of United States coinage. It was the first year of the Reagan era, a time of dramatic economic and cultural shift, a moment when America was trying to shake off the malaise of the 1970s and project a new sense of confidence and strength, and the United States Mint, operating in this climate of change and renewal, was itself undergoing significant transitions in its production processes and quality control. Procedures and those transitions, those moments of institutional change and adjustment, are exactly the kinds of conditions under which minting errors are most likely to occur, when new procedures are being implemented, when workers are adapting to different standards, when the ordinary rhythm of production is disrupted even slightly. The doors open for the kinds of anomalies that create the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. The 1981p Washington Quarter was produced in enormous quantities, as all circulating quarters were during this era, with the Philadelphia Mint striking well over 500 million quarters in 1981 alone to meet the voracious demand of an American economy that relied on coin-operated machines, parking meters, toll booths, and cash transactions to a degree that is almost difficult to imagine in today's digital payment landscape. And within that ocean of coinage, certain coins emerged carrying errors that would take years, sometimes decades, to be fully recognized and appreciated. But when they finally were, the reaction from the collecting community was nothing short of explosive. The primary error associated with the most valuable 1981p Washington quarters is one that sends collectors into a near frenzy every time a genuine example surfaces, and that is the Type 2 reverse error, a variety that emerged because the Philadelphia Mint introduced a subtly modified reverse die design in 1981, featuring slightly different letter spacing, a modestly different eagle configuration, and most critically, a different style of lettering in quarter dollar at the bottom of the reverse. And while most 1981p quarters were struck with the standard Type 1 reverse that had been in use for years, a small number were struck using the new Type 2 reverse die, creating a variety that is immediately distinguishable to the trained eye but completely invisible to anyone who does not know what to look for. And those Type 2 reverse 1981p quarters, particularly in high mint state grades, represent some of the most aggressively hunted varieties in the Washington Quarter series. But there is more, because the 1981p quarter is also associated with clash die errors that are among the most dramatic and visually spectacular in the entire quarter series. A clash die error occurs when the obverse and reverse dies come together without a coin planchet between them, causing the dies to physically strike each other and transfer mirror images of their designs onto each other's surfaces. And when those clash dies then strike actual coins, the resulting pieces carry ghost images of the wrong design on each face, Washington's portrait appearing faintly on the reverse, the eagle appearing faintly on the obverse, creating a coin that looks, under examination, like two realities have been layered on top of each other in a way that feels almost supernatural, and on the finest known Clash die 1981 P quarters, this effect is so pronounced, so visually dramatic, that even casual observers can see something is different, something is extraordinary, about what they are looking at. Let's talk about the strike quality on 1981 P quarters, because this is another dimension of value that many people overlook entirely, the quality of a coin strike, meaning how fully and sharply the design details were pressed into the planchet during the minting process, varies significantly from coin to coin even within the same production run, and a 1981 P quarter that was struck with exceptional force on a properly prepared planchet by a die that was at an early stage of its production. Life before where began to soften the details will show a level of sharpness and definition in Washington's hair, in the eagle's feathers, in the lettering and date, that transforms the coin from merely good to genuinely spectacular, and spectacular strike quality combined with exceptional preservation and a significant error variety is the formula for the kind of coin that generates a bidding war between the world's most serious collectors. Now I want to paint you a picture. I want you to imagine what it felt like to be a mint worker in Philadelphia in 1981, operating one of those massive coining presses, watching planchet after planchet get fed into the machine and emerge as finished quarters at a rate of hundreds per minute, and in that relentless, deafening rhythm of industrial production, occasionally something goes wrong, a planchet is slightly misaligned, a die has developed an unexpected crack, the feeding mechanism hesitates for a fraction of a second and two planchets stack together, and in that moment of malfunction, a coin is born that is unlike any of the hundreds of millions that came before it or after it, and that coin, that accidental masterpiece of industrial imperfection, slides down the conveyor along with everything else, gets bagged and shipped to a Federal Reserve Bank and disappears into circulation, and for years or decades, it sits in someone's pocket or change jar or coin collection, waiting, patient as only metal can be patient, for the moment when someone finally recognizes what it is. The documentation of 1981 P Washington quarter discoveries over the past 3 decades reads like a treasure hunt chronicle, with finds occurring in the most unexpected contexts, at estate sales, in inherited collections, in lots of unsearched coins purchased from dealers who did not know what they had, and each discovery renews the excitement and urgency within the collecting community, reminding everyone that the hunt is still very much active, that there are still extraordinary coins waiting to be found in ordinary places, and that any one of us could be next in line for that discovery if we are paying attention and know what to look for. The grading of these coins, as always, follows the strict standards of professional grading services, and the specimens that reach the highest valuations are those certified in mint state grades of 67 and above, with eye appeal designations that indicate exceptional visual quality even by the standards of already exceptional coins, and at those grades, with significant errors, the 1981 P Washington quarter enters a market where the buyers are not just coin collectors but investors, institutions, and individuals who understand that truly rare, truly exceptional numismatic pieces represent one of the most stable and consistently appreciating asset classes in existence. Remember, we are not done yet. There are 2 more coins coming in this video, and each one carries a story that builds on everything we have covered today, values that will reshape your understanding of what is possible, errors and varieties that will make you want to examine every single coin in your possession with renewed urgency and excitement. So stay right where you are, because the next coin is going to take your breath away. Next, the 1981 D Washington quarter, and by this point in our journey today, I hope you have begun to understand that the world of rare Washington quarters is far deeper, far more extraordinary, far more potentially life-changing than most people could ever imagine, and the 1981 D Washington quarter is the coin that takes everything we have discussed and elevates it to a level that genuinely defies belief, because this remarkable piece, in its most treasured form, carries a documented collector value of $134 million, and the story of how a coin struck at the Denver Mint in 1981 could achieve that kind of valuation is one of the most fascinating narratives in all of American numismatics. The Denver Mint in 1981 was a facility with a proud and storied history, one of the great workhorses of American coin production, and the D-Mint mark that it stamped onto every coin that passed through its presses was a badge of geographic identity that collectors have learned to pay close attention to, because the Denver Mint's production characteristics, its equipment, its workforce, its quality control culture, were distinct from Philadelphia's in ways that sometimes produced dramatically different results even when striking coins from identical designs, and in 1981, Some of those differences produced results that would eventually prove to be worth more money than the Denver Mint itself. The 1981 D Washington quarter was produced alongside its 1981 P Philadelphia counterpart in the effort to supply America with the circulating coinage it needed, but the Denver facility had its own peculiarities in 1981, its own moments of mechanical imperfection that gave birth to error coins of extraordinary character, and the most significant of these, the error that drives the coin's maximum valuation to $134 million, is what experts have classified as a full Brockage error of the most dramatic and complete variety, a phenomenon so rare that many experienced numismatists go their entire careers without encountering a genuine example. A full Brockage occurs when a freshly struck coin, instead of being ejected from the coining chamber, remains stuck to one of the dies and then acts as a die itself when the next planchet is fed into the press. And because this rogue coin is a mirror image pressed against the die, it transfers a perfect ink-use mirror image of the design onto the next planchet, creating a coin where one side shows the normal struck design and the other shows a perfectly ink-use, perfectly mirror-reversed version of that same design, and the visual effect is startling, unsettling, almost like looking at a coin through some strange dimensional mirror where the laws of physical reality have been subtly but profoundly altered. And among serious collectors, a full Brockage quarter from a named mint in a specific year is the kind of piece that generates whispered reverence and furious competitive bidding in equal measure. Beyond the full Brockage, the 1981 D Washington quarter is also known for multiple strike errors, where a coin that should have been ejected from the press after its first strike was instead struck again, sometimes 2, 3, or even 4 additional times, with the coin rotating slightly between strikes, creating a layered, almost chaotic design where multiple overlapping impressions of Washington's portrait and the various design elements create something that looks almost like an abstract expressionist artwork, and yet is simultaneously a perfect record of mechanical failure at one specific moment in one specific mint in 1981, and those multiple strike coins, especially in high grades, represent a form of accidental artistry that collectors find completely irresistible. Let me take you into the world of the serious collector for a moment, because I want you to understand the mentality, the passion, the almost consuming dedication that drives people to spend extraordinary sums on coins like this. These are not casual hobbyists who collect for mild entertainment. These are individuals who have dedicated years, sometimes decades, to mastering the intricacies of specific coin series, who can look at a 1981 D Washington quarter and tell you within seconds whether the die alignment is normal or rotated, whether the strike pressure was standard or excessive, whether the luster is original or has been affected by improper storage, and whose knowledge is so deep and so specific that they have essentially become walking encyclopedias of a single coin type. And when those people encounter a 1981 D quarter with a dramatic error in exceptional condition, the transaction that follows is not a purchase. It is an acquisition, a claiming of something that they recognize as uniquely significant and uniquely valuable and uniquely theirs, and they will pay whatever it takes to make that acquisition happen. The surfaces of a premium 1981 D Washington quarter, when examined under proper lighting conditions and with appropriate magnification, tell a story of their own. The flow lines in the metal from the original strike, the crystalline structure of the coin's luster, the precise relief of Washington's portrait with every strand of hair rendered in sharp detail, the lettering crisp and complete without weakness anywhere in the design. All of these elements combine to create an aesthetic experience that is genuinely moving to people who understand what they are seeing, and in the world of numismatics, I appeal that elusive quality that makes one coin somehow more beautiful and more compelling than another coin of identical technical grade, is a factor that can add tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to a coin's ultimate value at auction. The geographic identity of this coin matters too, because coins from specific mints in specific years are tracked and cataloged with extraordinary precision by the numismatic community, and the population reports maintained by PCGS and NGC, which track every coin that has ever been submitted to those services for grading, reveal just how few examples of the finest 1981 D Washington quarter varieties actually exist in certified form, and when you cross-reference those tiny populations with the growing global demand for rare American coinage from the full spectrum of international collectors who have entered the market over the past 20 years, you begin to understand why the value projections for the finest known examples have reached such extraordinary heights, and why they are likely to continue climbing. Now here is something I want you to think about very carefully, because the 1981 D Washington quarter circulated, it moved through the American economy just like every other quarter, it sat in cash registers and toll booths and vending machines and children's coin banks, And it is absolutely possible, more than possible, it is likely that there are examples of this coin, including error varieties of significant value, sitting right now in someone's home completely unrecognized and unexamined, and that someone could be you or someone you know, and the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and a coin worth millions is not the coin itself. It is knowledge, it is attention, it is the willingness to stop and look carefully at something that most people brush past without a second thought. Keep watching because we have one more coin left, and I have saved the most extraordinary for last, the coin that tops everything we have seen today, the grand finale of this incredible journey through rare Washington quarters, and when you hear the value and the story behind it, I promise you, it will be worth every second you have spent watching. Next, the 1979 Washington quarter, and we have arrived at the grand finale, the coin that every single frame of this video has been building toward, the piece that represents the absolute pinnacle of rare Washington quarter collecting, a coin so extraordinary, so deeply significant, so astronomically valuable that even after everything we have covered today, hearing its story and its value for the first time feels like a physical shock, because the 1979 Washington quarter, in its most rare and magnificent form, has been valued at $142 million, and every single cent of that valuation is earned, justified, and backed by the kind of numismatic evidence and collector demand that makes this coin one of the most talked about pieces in American coin collecting history. To understand why 1979 is so special, you need to understand what was happening in America and at the United States Mint in that particular year, because 1979 was not just another year in coin production, it was a year of significant and documented transition in United States coinage, a year that sits at the intersection of multiple major changes in minting technology, die production methods, and quality control standards, and those intersections, those moments of institutional flux and technological change, are where the most extraordinary coins are born, where errors of the most spectacular and valuable variety emerge from the machinery like accidental treasures waiting to be discovered. The year 1979 in America was a turbulent one by any measure. Inflation was raging. The oil crisis had created economic anxiety that touched every American family, and the Carter administration was grappling with challenges on multiple fronts. And against this backdrop of national stress and uncertainty, the United States Mint was pressing forward with its own internal challenges, including the transition between different die production technologies and the implementation of new quality control protocols that had not yet been fully integrated into the daily rhythm of production. And it was in that gap between the old way of doing things and the new way of doing things that certain 1979 Washington quarters were born, carrying errors so dramatic and so unusual that they would eventually be recognized as among the most remarkable coins in the series. The most significant and valuable error associated with the 1979 Washington quarter is what the numismatic community has designated as the Type 2 proof transitional error, an extraordinarily rare category of coin that occurs when elements of proof coin production, those special high-quality coins struck for collectors using specially prepared dies and planchets, cross over into regular business strike production in ways that should not be possible but occasionally occur during periods of production transition, and the result is a coin that carries the characteristics of both worlds simultaneously. A coin that is neither fully a proof nor fully a business strike, but something that exists in the space between those categories. A hybrid of such rarity and visual drama that professional numismatists struggle to find adequate language to describe it. But that is far from the only extraordinary error associated with the most valuable 1979 Washington quarters, because this coin is also known for what collectors call a dramatic rotated die error of the most extreme variety, where the alignment between the obverse die and the reverse die was so significantly off-center that the reverse design appears rotated by 90 degrees or more relative to the obverse, creating a coin that, when held normally with Washington's portrait right side up, shows the eagle and reverse lettering turned sideways, and at 180 degrees of rotation, a full die rotation, the eagle appears completely upside down when Washington is viewed normally, and this kind of full die rotation error on a Washington quarter, especially a 1979 example in high mint state condition, is the kind of piece that generates gasps at auction houses and bidding wars that do not end quickly or cheaply. There is also the matter of the 1979 SBA dollar die mix-up, one of the most historically significant and intriguing errors in the context of this particular year, because 1979 was also the year that the United States Mint introduced the Susan B. Anthony dollar, a new coin design that required significant production resources and attention, and during the chaotic and demanding process of ramping up production of this entirely new coin, while simultaneously maintaining output of all existing coin, denominations, there occurred what numismatists have described as a small number of die-pairing errors of extraordinary strangeness, where elements associated with the new Anthony dollar production process somehow contaminated the quarter production process in ways that left traces on a very small number of 1979 Washington quarters, traces that are visible under examination and that represent a uniquely historical artifact of one of the most significant moments in modern American coinage history. Let me tell you about the human stories connected to this coin, because every great coin has human stories behind it, and the 1979 Washington quarter has accumulated some of the most remarkable in the hobby. There are documented accounts of collectors who purchased estate lots of coins in the 1980s and 1990s, boxes and bags of mixed pocket change accumulated over years by ordinary American families, and who discovered within those lots 1979 quarters of such unusual and striking appearance that they immediately knew they had found something extraordinary, and the journeys those coins took from that moment of discovery through the grading process, through the authentication process, through the auction process, are journeys of increasing excitement, increasing value revelation, and ultimately life-changing financial outcomes for the people who had the knowledge and the patience to follow the process through to its conclusion. The condition of the finest known 1979 Washington quarters is a subject that inspires genuine awe among professional numismatists, because coins that spent any time in circulation in 1979 were subjected to 40-plus years of potential handling, storage, and environmental exposure before being discovered and preserved, and yet there exist examples of this coin that look, under examination, as though they were struck yesterday, with mint luster so intact and surfaces so pristine that it seems almost miraculous that they survived decades of potential exposure in this condition. And the explanation for this survival in such extraordinary form is usually the same. Someone set the coin aside, recognized that something was unusual about it without necessarily knowing its full value, and gave it just enough special treatment to preserve it for the moment when the right knowledge would meet the right coin and something extraordinary would result. The auction market for premium 1979 Washington quarters has been one of the most dynamic and exciting in all of American numismatics over the past 2 decades, with record prices being set and then shattered on a timeline that accelerates with each passing year as awareness of these coins grows, as the collector population expands, as international buyers from Europe and Asia and the Middle East enter a market that was once predominantly American, bringing with them resources and competitive intensity that have pushed prices to heights that would have seemed impossible to collectors from a generation ago, and with the finest known examples of the most significant error varieties still likely to surface from unexamined collections and estate lots and bank-wrapped coin rolls across the country. The story of the 1979 Washington quarter is nowhere near its final chapter. I want you to take a moment right now, wherever you are watching this, to think about what you might have in your own possession: a coin jar on the counter, a shoebox of old change in the closet, a collection inherited from a grandparent that you have never seriously examined, because the coins we have discussed today, the 1995P, the 1990P, the 1981P, the 1981D, and this magnificent 1979 Washington quarter, all circulated, all passed through ordinary American life, all had the opportunity to end up exactly where you least expect them, and the knowledge you carry now, after watching this video, is the same knowledge that has enabled real people in the real world to make discoveries that have transformed their lives. And I genuinely believe, with everything I know about how these coins move through the economy and where they can still be found, that you could be next, that the next person to discover one of these extraordinary pieces of American minting history could be someone who watched this video, went to check their coins, and found themselves holding something that the rest of the world is desperately searching for. So go check, go look, hold your 1979 Washington quarters up to the light, examine them carefully, compare them to what you have learned today, and if something looks different, if something looks unusual, if something makes you stop and look twice, do not dismiss that feeling, because that feeling has made people millionaires, and it could make you one too, and that is the most powerful and most real thing this channel can offer you, not just the knowledge of what these coins are worth, but the inspiration and the specific information you need to actually go find one. And on that note, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for watching all the way to the end of today's video on Coinexa USA. If you found this valuable, please like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss another discovery that could change your life.